Ted Cruz's masturbatory practices have made front-page news today, but with good cause. We're not talking about him jacking off just for any old willy-nilly reason. No, we're talking about this in connection with his crusade earlier in his career to defend a ban in Texas on the sale of dildos and other self-love accessories. And so we want to give you the background on that case, because that leads into why we're talking about him whacking off today. In 2004, companies that owned Austin stores selling sex toys and a retail distributor of such products challenged a Texas law outlawing the sale and promotion of supposedly obscene devices. Under the law, a person who violated the statute could go to jail for up to 2 years. Jesus. At the time, only 3 states, Mississippi, Alabama, and Virginia, had similar laws. The plaintiffs in this particular case say that the state law violated the right to privacy under the 14th Amendment. They claim that in some instances, one partner in a couple might be physically unable to engage in intercourse or have a contagious disease such as HIV or some other STI, and that in these cases, such devices could allow a couple to engage in safe sex. And I would like to say, first off, I appreciate the effort that the plaintiffs had gone into to come up with a logical, reasonable explanation to crazy people as to why someone might want to own a dildo. When I would say, fuck you, if I want to own a dildo, I'm going to own a dildo. I don't care if my legs don't work or if I have HIV. I could be perfectly legged and perfectly healthy. If I want to have a dildo, I'm going to own a dildo. What right is it of yours to say that I can't have it?
John, you are free to own the dildos that you have.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be proud of your dildos.
It's all hypothetical.
I'm just saying, if you happen to have dildos, I support your decision.
Let's talk about Ted Cruz's dildos, not mine.
Oh, we will.
Now, at the time, a federal judge ruled against them, ruling that selling sex toys was not protected by the Constitution. And I checked it. It doesn't say anything about sex toys, actually. The plaintiffs appealed. So, in 2007, Ted Cruz's legal team, working on behalf of then Attorney General Greg Abbott, who is now the governor, filed a 76-page brief calling on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit to uphold the lower court's decision, which would have kept the ban on the sale of dildos and other paraphernalia. The brief insisted that Texas, in order to protect public morals, which I don't think they have any need to protect or any job to protect, had police power interests in discouraging prurient interest in sexual gratification, combating the commercial sale of sex, and protecting minors. There was a government interest, it maintained, in discouraging autonomous sex. The brief compared the use of sex toys to hiring a willing prostitute or engaging in consensual bigamy. There is no substantive due process right. This is a direct quote. There is no substantive due process right to stimulate one's genitals for non-medical purposes unrelated to procreation or outside of an interpersonal relationship. If you are in a relationship, you can stimulate your genitals all you want, apparently, but not when you're alone, which is when you need that right the most, in my personal experience. Then, in a 2-1 decision issued in February of 2008, the Court of Appeals ruled against Ted Cruz and his anti-dildo crusaders. The court, citing, this is Lawrence versus Texas, the famous sodomy case from Texas, pointed to the right to be free from governmental intrusion regarding the most private human contact, sexual behavior. And they go on and they give a bunch of other great reasons why it is not in the government's interest to stop dildos from being sold.
Is it really Ted Cruz's interest to ban dildos when he is, in fact, a dildo himself? I mean, that's the real question here. I mean, what kind of strange legislation would a dildo support, you know? Anyway, I feel like Ted Cruz, for someone who considers himself extremely moral, spends a lot of time thinking about dildos.
Yeah, and look, he's the latest in a long string of Republican contenders for the presidency who want to control every aspect of your sexuality, and especially the sexuality that doesn't involve having intercourse. Like, Santorum wants to outlaw porn. He doesn't think you should have access to dildos or fleshlights or rabbits or double dongers or Sibians. Or we could go on for a while, and we probably should. Or
butt
maybe
plugs.
Butt plugs,
yeah,
anal beads.
Yes.
What about the anal beads?
What about lubricant?
What about lubricant?
I mean, have we thought about
What about
those
condoms
things?
or flavored condoms or dental
They
dam?
probably don't. Oh, dental dam.
What about sex swings? Should you have a right to sex swings?
No
He
sex
thinks not.
swing.
Now, so why in the end, I love talking about sex toys. So why in the end are we talking about Ted Cruz's masturbatory practices? Well, I don't know anything about his private life, thankfully, up until today, but I woke up to this from someone who does know. This is from Craig Mazin, who says, Ted Cruz thinks people don't have a right to stimulate their genitals. I was his college roommate. This would be a new belief of his.
Damn! He likes to stimulate his genitals.
You just got thrown under the stained bed. Oh, shit. He went on to say, Ted Cruz did not have a dildo stashed under his pillow. Ted Cruz slept on top of his pillow.
Wait, what?
He used his pillow for masturbatory reasons. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, we're going to make fun of Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz is a bad guy, and he tried to stop millions of Texans from having the freedom to do whatever they want sexually in the privacy of their own home and with themselves or with other people. But there is actually nothing wrong about humping your pillow night after night like Ted Cruz did throughout his undergraduate career.
So that's what he would do? He would dry hump his pillow?
This is based off of, this is the eyewitness testimony of his college roommate. Now, to be fair, from what I learned from the newsroom, you're supposed to have two sources. I don't have two sources. Presumably the second source would be the pillow, but it turns out there wasn't much left of it after 4 years of the constant humping. And again, he's a bad guy, so we get to make fun of him if we want to.
It's just so incredible how much conservatives are obsessive over our sexual habits, especially sexual habits that don't harm anyone and actually do lead to a lot of good things, right? Masturbation is not only a natural thing, it leads to a lot of stress relief. It helps people sleep. I mean, there's a lot of extensive research on this. And I know I'm trying to reason with lunatics, but I mean, how do they sit there talking about their morality and talking about how great they are when they're simultaneously obsessing over the sexual habits of other people? I don't think about the sexual habits of other people unless I want to engage in sexual habits with them, right? Otherwise, I don't care. You want to have sex with another human being? Go ahead. As long as there's consent, it's fine. You want to have sex with the person who has the same sex as you? By all means. Have a great time, right? It's none of my business. As long as no one's being harmed in the process, our legislators should not be spending any time debating whether or not they should outlaw these things. This is insane.
Yeah, and the reason that it's worth bringing up is, one, he's a presidential contender. That's certainly true. But also, in a recent town hall, he said, I don't think that as a Christian you should wear your religion on your sleeve when you're running. That shouldn't be what drives you. But you're trying to enforce laws that are based off of nothing other than a particularly extreme thing that you think is in the Bible that's not even really in there. And when their political philosophy is supposedly founded on the government should not get involved with your private life. Then, look, we occasionally use the example of like reproductive rights as an example of them getting inside of your body, which is totally true, but I understand some people don't find that convincing because they think that morally the baby represents another person, and so that gets a little bit messy. I get that, even though I find it to be convincing. But in this case, from the initial design of a new butt plug to its manufacture, to its distribution and sale, to transporting it back home, and to shoving it inside of yourself, at what point does the government have any need to be involved in that process?
No
need. If
need.
they're involved in the connection between you and your sex toy, there is nothing the government cannot get involved in.
So what I'm curious about is they're specifically going after sex toys that are traditionally used by women, right? Dildos.
Not exclusively.
Not exclusively, that's true, but it seems as though these laws were geared toward women, right?
Or gay men.
Or gay men.
Yes.
So was there any language in the legislation pertaining to men? Like, was there a ban on cock rings, for instance? Right? Like,
I don't know. Or fleshlights.
Right. And so the way...
Sex dolls.
Sex dolls. It doesn't seem like they really cared too much about male masturbation. I mean, how could he if he was masturbating himself with other people in the room?
Yeah. Which is just rude.
Extremely rude and disgusting. I hear guys do that, though, right? They just like...
Oh, you mean you hear tell?
Yeah, I heard that men get together and they circle jerk. Like, that's what they do.
I have not heard that same thing, but I guess I went to a particularly straight edge college. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the male circle jerk happens on the first hour of the power panels every Friday. But anyway, damn. But
not a literal one.
No, just kidding. I'm seriously joking. Sort of. But what I do want to bring up is the way that this makes these legislators seem or look is that they feel as though sex toys are competition and they're afraid by it and they want to outlaw it. It's like, why would I allow these women to have vibrators when they're going to get off by using these vibrators? I want them to want to have sex with me.
We don't want them to be able to just enjoy sex or think that they should enjoy sex. And again, if you think, look, obviously we like talking about this because it's fun to make fun of Ted Cruz, but the stakes, I mean, it's punishable by going to jail at that time for 2 years, and they literally arrested people. They ran undercover stings because women would have these little get-togethers, like a Tupperware sale, called passion parties, I think they're called, which actually sounds pretty hot. And they'd get together and they'd sell each other the sex toys, and they would arrest and lock people up based on this.
That's insane.
And that's my second to last point that I'm making this. So my last point is that I love this picture in the background. It's like, get out. I want to love my pillow. That's how I imagine it going down.